All right, we are live. All right. Good evening, everybody. And today we have myself and Johnny, and today we have Collectiverse, and we're going to be doing a follow-up AMA with them and talk to them about what they've been up to the last couple months and just see what they're doing. So, do you wanna introduce yourself real quick, and we'll get into all the questions.
Yeah, great. First off, thanks again for the opportunity. It's always great to be part of this. Um, my name is Apollo in Collectiverse. My doc's name is Cole Singh. Just a little bit about myself. I'm an ex-Wall Street trader and structurer. I worked at Credit Suisse and Merrill Lynch for about 5 years, where I did interest rate derivatives and structured products. I then founded two technology companies that I ended up selling. There were middleware companies, which ties in very much with what we're doing with Collectiverse. I'll talk to that in a bit. And then worked in some AI, and then got into the DeFi space. Was hooked, amazed with what the technology is potential, and given, especially given coming from the TradFi space. And as I started spending some time in space and trading, I just saw some opportunities, and that's sort of where Collectiverse was born.
Awesome. So before we get into like giving a summary, or I mean, if you want to get into like Collectiverse, kind of like we did the last time or whatever, but
Yeah.
have you guys added any more team members to your team since we talked?
So no, we've been staying consistent with the team. We have a very solid team
Okay.
of six folks. We have the four core founders that are publicly doxed and KYC by the City Council, and two additional developers. So we have a very strong team in terms of both DeFi, NFT, and then my experience in the TradFi and building middleware products, which is what Collectiverse effectively is.
Sure. Okay. So let's get into what Collectiverse is. And I mean, you can just give a brief description unless you want to get into the nitty gritty of it. I know you kind of wanted to give us updates on the NFTs, the fractional NFTs, and roadmap stuff. So, yeah, if you just want to go into what you guys are about.
Yeah, I would love. Yeah, I would love to take a step back to sort of give, for someone who has not had a chance to read, look into Collectiverse, or so I'd love to give a very first a high level and just sort of a little background on where we're coming from in building this. As I mentioned, that I had founded and built two middleware software companies, and for those that don't understand or heard of the term middleware, it's something it's a software layer that sits on top of typically network infrastructure. It's often used in the fintech space or the networking world, where it's used to solve some critical problems in the underlying infrastructure. It could be complexity, it could be just the issues that are needed to build applications. And if, for example, HTTP, which in the internet is a middleware protocol for the complexity of TCP/IP, which is creates simplicity for anybody to use the internet. We saw the same opportunity in the blockchain space. There's a number of problems that exist in the crypto space generally. You have hacks, you have flash loan attacks, you have the ease of projects being able to get rugged, the difficulty of building in this space. And when you put all those problems together, you say there's too much going on here for it to just be something that is going to be solved by a project or a quick fix. And so what we sort of looked at this and said, there's a need for a new architecture. And that architecture is adding a new middleware on top of a layer 1 and layer 2 that we're calling layer 3, just to be very clear that it's a new layer that solves those core problems. And we can talk to more details of how, but that's the vision of what we're building as a platform. And everything that we're building around it is just enabling solving the two main problems in the space, which is that it's too easy to get hacked and rugged, and it's too hard to build. And looking to solve those two core problems.
Yeah, and I think if you can make it easy for someone and you do actually solve those two things with Collectiverse, I think you guys could potentially do quite well. I know that there's a wrench that's been thrown into everyone's plans with the market and all of the macroeconomic things, but I mean, you just keep plowing through and do what you guys can. But I think you guys are off to a good start.
Thank you. And look, this is the great opportunity to build. I mean, this is the markets that you build, and where we're moving full. I'm not saying things haven't changed a bit, but in terms of moving forward, we're even more confident. Obviously, seeing what's happened in the last few months in terms of projects that you consider to be high quality, just people getting tired and the founders taking the money, or these hacks, these bridge hacks and so forth. It just tells you there's something that needs to be done to allow this space to become more mainstream, to allow it to become easier for outsiders to come in this space and say, I can put my money in here, or I can spend my time building in this space.
Sure.
And that's what Collectiverse is looking to do.
Yeah. So if I was a project and I wanted to, but I didn't have the know-how or the resources to do it, why would I come to you?
Sure. So today, for someone to come and build in this space, they would need to know, first of all, how to build the technology or the product they want to build. Then they would need to know how to manage their treasury. They would need how to ensure security. They would have to pay for expenses like KYC and audits if they want to protect their investors and so forth, and give assurances to the community. And when you start adding all those things up, you've just created a number of roadblocks for most people to come in this space legitimately. It's too expensive. It's too difficult. And we've seen this in previous markets. We've seen it in building websites. It was so hard for a mom and pop to have a website. So it took a while for the tool to be developed. It took a while for mobile apps to be built. Well, now there's the opportunity where we see to do the same thing in the crypto space. It's still too difficult for a business that doesn't have any idea of how to build, in crypto, to be able to start a project. And you might say, well, that's crazy, but there are people that read about this space. Well, how do I have, a project? Or an example is, we want to take an artist. They have the art, but they don't know how to start with NFT. They don't know how to create any utility around it or create a token. They can come to Collectiverse and both those elements together and have that project running within potentially days. That's the potential what Collectiverse provides. You can add DeFi to an existing NFT project and not have any DeFi experience. You can add NFTs to an existing DeFi experience and not have any NFT experience. We're providing a technology platform that enables you to bolt on these elements you need and have a working product to go to market quickly. And if you don't want to have everything that we offer, we're looking to offer various services, whether it's NFT services. We have an NFT marketplace that we built in-house. We have an NFT fractionalizer that we built in-house that you can use. We offer treasury management. We're looking to offer token management as a service, so that you don't have to think about how all those things work, and you can be just comfortable of deploying a product that and trusting Collectiverse to manage those elements for you.
Okay. So, do you guys currently have any projects lined up to use your service?
So we have a number of projects we have spoken to that we are interested to come on board. We are trying to figure out what's the best structure for the initial inaugural projects. And it's just a matter of, do we want to position the best, obviously the first projects to be most successful. Sure. So what we're doing now is we're starting with our NFT sale to bring in the funds. And what we did is we initially were going to start with the projects to launch. With the market going under, bear market happening and so forth, we decided to focus on first, let's do our NFTs, let's bring in some capital to continue building. And then we're going to reduce the number of projects that we'll go out with and focus on a few that we will target. the opportunity for this is there's no shortage of projects. For example, I presented Collectiverse at a meetup in New York City recently. I told them of what we can provide as a service. I had 7 or 8 founders come up to me and say, can I use you? Can we use you? And I was like, absolutely. An example I'll give you is, like, I had someone who, this was a woman who said, she wants to start up an NFT project that targets colored people and helps to drive abilities for them and utility for them, but she's afraid to launch it because she's afraid of the security risk. And she's like, can we use Collectiverse to deploy my solution? And the answer is absolutely. We're just now need to understand what she needs and so forth. So that's like an example of a project we would love to be able to enable in Collectiverse, where otherwise it would be too difficult for her to figure out the security. She doesn't know how to begin, but she has a very cool concept. And that's the kind of, the opportunity for us to bring in projects is going to be easier and easier once we are fully live. And that's the goal right now. Let's get live, and we'll have a number of projects, both existing today that, for example, we have projects that are on a different chain that said, I would like to have AVAX, access to AVAX investors. That's an opportunity we're targeting. We have another type of project that says NFTs. So we have it's across the board of the types of projects. The question is which ones that we want to start with and ensure we can help them be successful, because those are the inaugural projects that are going to highlight what Collectiverse can be.
Gotcha. Is there any particular blockchain that you guys are going to build on, or is it you'll do it on any of them?
So we are going to be cross-chain, and the goal is to be across all of them. We are starting with Avalanche. That was our first chain we focused on, and we are now in discussions with Polygon's senior team about coming on and building on their chain as well. It's really exciting to hear that a lot of these protocols, when you start talking about middleware, I was like, are they going to think we're from are they going to think we're something from outer space or whatever? But they're like, we love middleware. Like they understand it, they believe in it. So once we start talking about this new software layer, they're like, this is an area we're investing in as well. So they're very excited to work with us. So nice. Polygon's our next one.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Johnny, do you have anything?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll jump in here real quick. So look, something that we've noticed a lot lately with the failure of some larger DeFi projects in this space as the market's kind of hit the skids, there's kind of been a renewed interest in true decentralization, and I think we all know, anybody that's been experiencing DeFi for a long time knows that there are many, many projects that say they're part of DeFi, but actually most of them are completely centralized. Even most DAOs are DAOs in name only and never actually get to the point where there's any type of community power as far as decision making. How are you going to balance this? Like you're creating a middleware platform that is designed to provide these services to people who aren't technically proficient to do so themselves. But at the same token, that places an inordinate amount of power in your hands as far as, what can go on those projects. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, it's a great point. And when you say that, you're exactly into what we also believe in that DeFi is a misnomer. It's called decentralized finance, but it's actually more centralized than most traditional finance firms. They have a board and they have some accountability with shareholders. Where here in DeFi, a lot of times project owners have full say of what happens with the treasury. And that is in some ways how we've architected our product. We offer as a core default that the funds are managed by the token holders and not by a single project owner. So that's the default for any project that gets built on the Collectiverse ecosystem, that it is a decentralized structure. When you make a great point when it comes to Collectiverse, we are in a situation where we are going to roll that out over some time. So what we're doing initially is the treasury is going to be managed, the Collectiverse treasury, first of all, is going to be managed by a 3-4 multisig. And I have to note that this was something that we discussed on the last AMA, and we had not had it as 3 or 4, and Scott had suggested, we should definitely seriously consider changing that. And that was something we looked at and said that's something we did. So we will have in a 3-4 multi-sig, we're having 2 community members and 2 team members. 2 community members include the head of KYC group at Obsidian Council, and another one a pre-sale group, and then two Collectiverse members. So the multi-sig part is going to be managed by 3-4 community sig. But in terms of the decentralization, we are releasing our token a bit later. That's the next step that will come after we first release the product and make sure the platform is working. We are planning to have some the decentralization part of Collectiverse as well. As you noted, we can't completely, when you're trying to build out something completely new, to give it completely given it's something that doesn't exist today. We do need to have some leadership. So the team will have a larger stake in that vote initially, and more that say, but over time we want to decentralize it and have the community have a say in which direction we go.
Yeah, I think it's such an interesting idea in DeFi, because we all understand that in order to accomplish anything, you have to have a hierarchy. You have to have some type of structure.
Right.
However, we're all kind of running to this space from places where, governments, regulatory agencies, etc., have so much power that they kind of overwhelm the power that the individual user has. So it's always a balancing act trying to figure out where that line is. And as we talk about that, so we talk about, I guess, maybe DeFi, the idea would be that the individual user would have a similar, amount of power to the centralizing body. In this case, it would be Collectiverse. But along with that comes a little bit of regulatory risk. I think recently I've been reading a lot about how some of the regulatory bodies, at least in the United States, are going to pretty much solidly consider any interest-bearing NFT account, coin, token, etc., as a security. Have you all begun to think about how this regulation will affect Collectiverse, and do you have any plans for dealing with that as it comes down the pipe?
So I'm a bit, but let me actually go back first on the decentralization point, and then go to the regulation side. On the decentralization point, I think you're absolutely right. There's going to have to be different tests of models of what works. For example, what I think is you need to have a way that the token holders can at least vote on if they want to have a delegate vote to make those decisions for them, which in a lot of projects, they don't even have that situation.
Yeah.
So yeah. I do feel that there needs to be some form of governance, even if the governance is, we'll give the founders the vote and trust to that, or we're going to give a delegate a vote, or a third party like over Kryptonaires a right to vote for our shares, so that there is some proactive element and not just the owners have 100% say. So that is where we want to go, and that is the models of even in our decentralization that we're enabling. We don't want it to be that it always has to be a democratic vote, because you'll then not all, as we see in most democratic votes, not everybody votes, and then you have a situation where you don't have enough say that of what people really wanted. So we're going to have to do different tests to see how that works properly. So I'm going to put that out there. On the regulation side, on the U.S., I have to say I'm less concerned. I don't think I know what the SEC wants, but I have a strong belief that Congress is completely scared of losing this industry, and they know how big the internet has been and how other industries, and they know that if they make a mistake here, the best founders that are coming up are gone, and it's already happening. So many people. I've spent some time in Portugal, considering going out there. It's welcome to people. They're welcoming people from any country to come there, and they have ways for the tax and everything to work in your favor. So there's a lot of concern, I believe, in terms of the government to let those quality entrepreneurs go somewhere else. What I also think there's going to be challenges, given how fast this space moves, for them to fully understand what is what. it's like, is it, if an NFT is a security, then does that make every art a security? Does that make Rally Road a security? Like, I mean, like everything then becomes muddled, and now they have to reestablish everything. So I'm looking at knowing how regulation works. I think there's going to be some middle ground that doesn't put everything out there and says this is a security and we're going to lose this whole space.
I mean, I absolutely agree with you. I think that some members of Congress do realize that this space will play a massive part in the economic future of Web3, and, you know, the metaverse, et cetera, however that comes into being in one way or another. And I do think you're right. I think that, you know, broadly interpreted, if you read some of the ways that securities are defined, essentially you could define it to mean almost anything. And that would have to be probably tightened. It's too general now. At some point, they will have to pare that down. And that's an interesting idea. I mean, we all know how billionaires use art right now, not NFT art, but normal art as a tax haven. And that's quite common. And those, you know, pieces of art, as you appropriately mentioned, are not considered securities. So I think those are great points. And yeah, I think I actually hope what you're saying is correct. That would be the best way going forward. I agree the space will be regulated, but I think hopefully they will do a light touch, and entrepreneurs such as yourself are allowed to do what you do best and try to build something the rest of us can enjoy.
And I think it's good. I think there's low hanging fruit for the regulators to add value without hurting entrepreneurship. For example, you sort of touched on like these tax issues. People are buying NFTs and then creating another account and, you know, buying it at a lower price and creating false, you know, tax losses or whatever it may be, right? Or these programmatic stable coins, which we've seen, it can be a disaster. But that doesn't mean all stable coins should, you know, should be thrown out with the bathwater, so to speak. So there's going to be, in my view, a clear breakdown of what's good and what's bad in terms of it, and seeing the low-hanging fruit. And I'm going to trust that that they're going to be very careful of not over-regulating this space out of their country.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we can all hope. And I also think you made a great point that I probably would say is one of the main barriers to overregulation, which would be, I think that everything moves so fast that even those of us who are in this space every day struggle to keep up with everything that's happening, much less if you're a random, you know, regulator for the SEC or someone from the IRS trying to figure out the structure of what's actually happening. It's almost impossible, you know, so it will be interesting to see how that plays out. Yeah,
it will. I mean, again, as coming from Wall Street and doing financial engineering on that side of the world, I know we could pretty much work around any rules we needed to. There's so many ways to structure. That's why you'll have these crazy off-balance sheet risks that don't aren't on the balance sheet. And you're like, well, how did that happen? Because there's loopholes, and if you want to figure a way out, there is. And the key is that they don't want to lose that market. So we're going full speed ahead with the belief that this is a space that the U.S. wants to have, that every country wants to have, but there can't be a free for all, and that's going to be a good thing in some ways. That they do have some regulation, but not regulated out of existence.
Sure, absolutely. And then one last question, a little bit more specific to Collectiverse. I know you talked about the release of your NFTs. I don't know if you want to break that down a little bit more, or if you've got any, you know, points that aren't on Twitter or your Discord. You know, I'm reading here, but you could probably break it down then better than what anybody can find online. So go, have at it.
Yeah, I appreciate you asking that. So this was a change that we made. We were initially going to do the projects to start off with. We had always felt getting projects up and running on the Collectiverse ecosystem was the best way to show the ecosystem working. It's your MVP. It's your prototype. It shows it's what we needed to do. But and obviously with the market changing, we decided to take a step back and give our community a chance to invest in Collectiverse first. And that was, we've always wanted to be community first. And looking at the market, I said I was not interested at all to raise venture money. And I'm still rather not if it was our choice. I mean, just so you know my background, I've raised close to $100 million in venture capital. So I've done it. I know the good and the bad with it. It's something we have access to if we need it. But what I wanted to first do is give our investors and the community, I should say, first ability to invest in Collectiverse. If you then needed to go ahead and raise money from more institutional type investors. So we decided to create these NFTs, which provides our token at a discount. And the discount on the token of our future governance token ranges from 10% to 30%, where 10% is for the lowest price, $100 one, and the 30% discount is for the list version of our token, and the between is actually the most expensive one, but that also offers what we call a first access pass that gives you access to whitelist to the most highly curated projects in our ecosystem. So that is what we are offering: 3 tiers of NFTs in this collection. We call this the NFT seed collection. It's $100 for the lowest price, 10% discount. $350 for the whitelist. There's still some whitelist available, by the way. So if folks come into our Discord and mention the crypto areas, we'd love to have you be part of our community. And then the $2,000 ones, which give you a 20% discount. So you get $2,500 worth of future tokens, plus the free access pass. And they all have some utility in our space metaverse. So they're 3D. They're all going to be 3D animated NFTs. You can see them in our Discord. They're really cool, and we are going to have that there be some gamification element in our metaverse, so everyone immediately becomes a collective owner. One thing which I didn't talk about, since this is typically a DeFi-oriented group, I wanted to sort of talk in our NFT. We do have a metaverse element. Collectiverse stands for collective metaverse, and what we did was we wrapped our ecosystem in a space metaverse, so that any project that participates or builds in our ecosystem, or any investor that invests in our ecosystem, immediately becomes an owner, a co-owner of our space metaverse. They have some ownership of our space metaverse, which gives them a diversification if that project doesn't work out, both for the builders as well as the investors. So we thought that would be a really cool way to build this truly collective metaverse, as opposed to it being a single metaverse and every project having to have their own metaverse strategy. Just by participating in the Collectiverse ecosystem, you will have a metaverse strategy that comes with your project.
That sounds really awesome.
Thank you,
Scott. You got anything else, man?
So on the NFTs, how many NFTs are there?
Yeah. So there's going to be 350 of the whitelist ones. There's 500 of what we call the Genesis NFT ones, which are the $2,000 ones. So those are both going to be the asteroids, and they will have these mined elements that you can mine for and use to build spaceships and other cool things in our space metaverse. And then we have, for the lowest price ones, $100. We're going to have 3,500, and those will be star NFTs.
Okay. And so, is there a time frame that you would like to get all of these sold? Like, is there like a period of time where once these are sold, then you're going to use that money to do what with it?
So we're going to start pulling in the funds and start building immediately. It's to build, it's to do audits, it's to continue growing. Now, the goal here is first give the community, give the individual investors the ability, enough time to buy into Collectiverse. So we're going to do our best to get this out. And I've said this before, if for whatever reason it doesn't go as well in terms of the sale, in terms of to get the full sale, and we don't actually need the full amount. We just put a certain amount out there that allows us to bring in enough capital for a period of time, but also give enough exposure to different types of investors, we would then go to some institutional investors that we had in conversations already, but we would then go to look at bringing capital in from them. But we wanted to have the community be able to invest first and to be part of Collectiverse. So that's our hope. It's a community-driven project. We don't have to go out to those larger investors, and we grow and build this into, a huge platform. And the smallest to medium-sized investors are the ones that win here, not the largest and the VCs that already are rich.
Sure, right. Yeah, no, I like that you have the 3 different tiers of NFTs. Just kind of give that exposure to all those different ranges. If someone has the $2,000 to put in, then great. If they only have $100, then they can put in $100. I do really like that with the $2,000 one that they get that early access pass into your projects that come in. So that would be I think that would be a huge benefit for, if you get some big projects that come in that want to add different features to their project, but they don't know how to start, I think that would be, I think that would be a really interesting thing. So, is there anything else that you want to discuss about the NFTs before I want to kind of talk about your tokens real quick?
Sure. What I would say is, if you haven't seen them, they're really cool. Take a look at them. We've taken these asteroids, and which we've only shown the preview of the asteroids so far, and we've added so Collectiverse. If you look at our logo here, you'll see that we are using the 369 vortex math for the logo, and this is based on Nikola Tesla's view that this math is this sort of universe, and so we use it for the Collectiverse, of course, as a space metaverse theme. We are incorporating in all our NFTs these shapes and these elements, this math that I think adds a cool aspect to the NFT. So from a visual standpoint, I think you're getting a very nice collectible, and from obviously the benefit of getting the tokens at a sale, and also when you actually buy the tokens, if you're buying the asteroid ones, you're actually going to get 3 tokens. You're going to get the NFT itself. You're going to get, well, I should say, you're going to get a right to the future token of our governor token, and then you're going to get a airdrop of a resource within a mined resource within the asteroid itself that represents whether it's hydrogen or whether it's gold or platinum or whatever it may be in that asteroid. You'll get an airdrop which can then be traded immediately in our marketplace, or could be eventually used to sell to or build cool things in a metaverse. One thing just one thing before on the NFTs, and I'll stop there. But that is that you did mention on that ability to connect projects with the first access pass, and we also think that's actually a really powerful way where you get quality investors, you get quality projects, and you match them in a way. And we think that for the $2,000 investment, that actually is going to be alone a great deal for people who are buying that access pass, because I think people will be able to, as the Collectiverse ecosystem grows and sees the quality of projects, that they'll be able to sell that alone over time in terms of that utility.
Yeah. Are you going to be able to resell these NFTs? Like, so if someone buys the $2,000 NFT and then they want to resell it later on, is that a possibility?
Yes. So we're building an NFT marketplace, and sell it immediately. We would eventually support something like an OpenSea. There is nothing on Avalanche like that today, but we are also looking at ways to support cross-chain on these NFTs so that they can be listed on OpenSea or whatever it may be. So they can. I mean, obviously, if they sell them, they won't get access to the tokens until the tokens are released. But that is an opportunity.
Gotcha. Is your NFT marketplace, is it going to be exclusive just for your guys' things, or are you going to eventually allow other NFTs to be traded and sold?
Oh, absolutely. That's actually part of the platform. We've in our technology platform, we've integrated this fractionalizer, this NFT marketplace. So any project that wants to use it, they can leverage those services at a discount than they would if they were doing piecemealing it all together on their own.
Gotcha. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So since the last time that we talked, have you guys ran into any major hiccups that you guys have had to kind of pivot and rethink how things are done?
Things have taken a bit longer to build on the marketplace and the fractionalizer. I would say, in terms of the pivot, no. I think in terms of our timing, obviously we moved the things around.
Sure.
I think it's more about helping people to understand what Collectiverse is building. Is, I think, a pivot in how we're explaining it. Like, for example, and I haven't even discussed it here. We haven't gone into that much detail, but one thing I do try to help people to visualize is that the way we're creating this layer 3 is that a unique innovation we're doing is that we're creating a stable coin as a platform that creates a buffer between projects that will have a token in our ecosystem, projects that have the treasury, and the wild west, say, in layer 1. And we are adding a 24-hour period when those tokens can be, if you sell your token into our stablecoin, there's a 24-hour period that you can get those tokens that you can then cash out into USDC. Our stablecoin is 100% backed by USDC, so it's effectively USDC, but we had to create it as a separate token so that it wouldn't go directly into, if it was just USDC, then you'd be able to exchange it any DEX. So the idea is that you have this buffer and it protects the ecosystem. And I think that's just sort of a way to visually think about what we're doing in terms of building. It's not actually its own protocol in the sense that we're creating another. It's not another smart chain platform. It's actually a platform that sits on any existing layer, but that stablecoin creates that middleware platform.
Okay, so is your stablecoin, is it going to be? It's different than the Rocket and the Verse token, correct?
No, it is Rocket. So Rocket is the stable coin. Yes. So Rocket is still the stable coin thing. It's just a way to think about it. It's the platform that protects the ecosystem, so that any funds that move out, any tokens that get sold, they have to go through Rocket, and that has some protection. So that protects against, say, flash loan attacks. Like right now, if a flash loan attack happens and money's moved out, if it's directly on the layer 1, there's nothing you can do. In our case, if there was somehow a flash loan attack, that money's going to have to sit in Rocket for a period of 24 hours. We'll be able to do something about it and figure out there's something happened here, and we can protect those funds.
Gotcha. Okay, so let's kind of go over your couple different tokens now. Like what's the supply? You know, what's the benefit of them? Is there? I see that there's some revenue coming from them and some yield. So
yeah. So the way to think about both our governance token and Rocket is that these are ecosystem revenue driven yield, or like you can say price support, so to speak. So we are going to, as we have revenue generated, and the way we generate revenue in our ecosystem is similar in some ways to like what a layer 1 would generate fees. It's transactional. The more transactions, the more investors that are buying and selling, the more projects that are building, the more fees that we're going to generate, the more people are listing their NFTs in our marketplace, the more fractionalizations happen, the larger, the more funds we manage on the treasury and so forth. We're going to have more revenue that comes into our ecosystem, and we're going to partition those funds as partial to continuously buy back the Verse token over time. We have a number out there right now. And I should say it could change. That's why we didn't set the specific number of tokens that we're issuing. We put it as a discount, so that if we change eventually the number of tokens, it won't matter for the people who are investing today. It's going to be the same. They're getting the same percentage benefit. But in terms of Rocket, we're providing some of that treasury towards providing yield. So in both cases, it's not like we're having to come up with some DeFi financial engineering, like, and I don't want to say in terms of speaking any negative any other folks, but just we don't have to have this Ponzi element of us trying to create yield or trying to create support to the token. It's just as there's more transactions in our ecosystem, we're going to provide support to both of those tokens in creating yield and price support.
So I have a question about the Rocket. So if you're giving people discount on the Rocket token and it's basically backed by USDC.
So we're not giving discount on Rocket. It's on Verse.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
Yeah,
I misheard you. Okay. Never mind. I was a little concerned there.
Yeah. No worries.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Johnny, do you have anything to add about those couple tokens?
No, I mean, it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see what you guys are doing. USDC is definitely one of my preferred stable coins. It's what I keep most of my stuff in, so I like it as a backing, and I hope you guys can kind of change the narrative on some of the stablecoin / new coin token failures we've been seeing lately. So good luck, fellas.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I think there's an opportunity. So, for example, when we talk to these other protocol leaderships and we talk about this stable platform, their eyes perk up, and their eyes perk or ears perk up, and they're like, "That's very interesting. That is something we can support because it's not this programmatic trying to create, money out of nothing. It's creating a true utility to try to serve a purpose to make the ecosystem better." And I don't think the world needs another stablecoin just for the sake of stablecoin. And I personally don't think the world needs another programmatic stablecoin. But I think stablecoins, the opportunity to innovate with them is just beginning. And we believe Rocket will show a new way to innovate by turning a stablecoin into a platform, into the basis of building an entire ecosystem on top of, which hasn't existed at this time.
Yeah. Let's talk about the metaverse. And then the next thing I want to talk about is like the revenue streams that you got in your updated white paper. So do you guys still feel like you're on track to hit that Q3, Q4 of 2023 for launching the metaverse?
Good question. Everything has gotten delayed so far, so I wouldn't be surprised if that gets delayed. Let me note that we have a framework for an open source space metaverse that already exists, but it's too large for most people to deploy or use. And we actually talked about whether we should implement that sooner than later, and we just felt like it would be too much for most people to actually take benefit of it. So the challenge for us is going to be able to figure out how to not require people to have 100 gig to download to their laptop to download every 3D space element to be able to travel between these planets and so forth. So that's our challenge right now. It's not so much that when we based our vision around this, we already knew about. So this goes to where Hami and our team already been very actively involved on the space side. They've already launched NFTs with the Mutnik project into space, and they've already sold that for charity. I mean, they have been very active with on building already space-related products and projects. So they had access to databases that I would say if it was just me, I wouldn't have had access to. And we are going to leverage those. And we already knew we were going to do that. That's why we could be aggressive in our timeline. The challenge for us has always been, how do we make that accessible to more people? Because if it's only like 5 or 6 people can use our space metaverse because it's so big, well, that doesn't really work for us. We need to figure out how to make it more accessible to anyone. And so that's our challenge. And I don't have an answer for that right now.
Gotcha. Is it so? Like I really like the metaverse, and I think it's going to be massive in the coming 5-10 years time frame. I mean, the amount of things that you're going to be able to do with the metaverse is going to be absolutely mind-boggling. A couple of things that you had mentioned right here in your updated white paper was like universities could purchase a world and they could host classes and things like that. And
Mhm.
I've even seen videos of different people talking about, there was already like Oculus type things where you can put on a headset and a world renowned doctor can come from, we'll say, China and be in a surgical room in the United States and help with a surgery, like just kind of coaching them through it and different things like that. And so I think the sky's the limit with some of this stuff. And so have you guys thought about maybe like like an Oculus type thing
Oh
for your
yeah,
metaverse?
yes, for sure. It will be. I mean, there'll be an opportunity to use it on a PC or to use actually, the
Gotcha.
VR and actually be in it. That is the goal. Where you're actually traveling through space and be able to do things and also see what you're building, have an economy, which is part of the DeFi elements. I mean, the idea is that when we talked about the academic side, is that we want students to be able to think about building societies and governance, about building economies, thinking about how all those things offset each other, and then understanding the space side of things and what the limitations of are. And so what we see is creating an opportunity for them to actually build a full society, which creates the best playground for students and for kids to learn. Right? Like
Right.
I wish I had that when I was a kid. Who needs? And I say this flippantly in some way, but who needs school if you could actually and get practice of building a society, understanding governance in reality, philosophy and economy all becomes more tangible when you're actually doing it versus studying it in a book and seeing
Right.
who wrote what. Right. So
Yeah.
that's our vision here, that we want to create a playground not for students, for a guy who's in Africa or a woman who's in Africa who wants to build an economy in the metaverse and sell T-shirts for their planet or whatever it may be, and create a whole economy there that would be otherwise very difficult to do. That's the goal. That's the vision.
Yeah. I really like it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's a really awesome idea, and I hope you guys can push through and whatever kind of things pop up in the meantime. I hope you guys can overcome all those things.
Look, I mean, we know we have some challenges, as every project will, but I think when you look at the team and you look at the opportunity and the problems we're solving, there's a lot of low hanging fruit for us to execute on, and we have a team that's executed before.
Absolutely, and like this space is so untilled so far. Like, I mean, there's projects that talk about doing things and they want to do things and they have big dreams, but I think if you guys can succeed at doing these, like, you will be a monster of a project.
Scott, with you saying that, I really appreciate it, because I know you don't say that very easily. So thank you.
Yeah. So let's get into the revenue streams of your project. So how do you guys make money? How do people make money? And how do incoming projects make money?
Okay. There is no difference in terms of the way to think of how a project would make money or an investor would make money in Collectiverse than if they were building directly in Avalanche or if they were building directly on Polygon. The difference is that we're providing the protective layers and we're providing turnkey tools for developers to build and treasury managers. They don't have to build everything themselves. It's like it's all these shared resources they can leverage without having to do it themselves. And we've seen DeFi as a service work very well with certain projects like Sphere Finance, and I think Horde is doing great. There's a tremendous opportunity to provide these solutions as a turnkey service. What Collectiverse does is provide you from zero to full launch and be able to do that through templates. and it's not going to be day one doing everything in advance. Day one is going to be over time. We're going to enable that, but we've already built out a lot of those elements in our phase one, which is going to be released. We're actually, and I should say that that's already been one version of audits with CERTIC is the phase one that would enable a lot of those elements. So we've already got that, most of that built, and we just need to do some more testing on the test net, but that's where we are in terms of getting those pieces ready. There's a service that we can offer uniquely that is very different than other folks that are thinking about it. Like, we're offering token management as a service, where you have a token that you can release in the Collectiverse ecosystem, and you can have all the utility and all the elements built in there without having to worry about any elements of how to have it work, of manage the liquidity pools, of doing all that stuff. It's all managed within Collectiverse in a turnkey way. And it just, if you start thinking about it, you just simplified building in the space. That's what our goal is.
Sure.
So we make money on each one of those things. The more services you use, the more transactional revenue. So let's suppose you only want to use a small element of it. We just take a smaller fee over time,
Gotcha.
for each transaction. If you want to use more of our services, we take a larger cut of services. So think of it like as gas fees in this case, but it's not being paid by the user. It's being paid by the project to us. We're getting a bigger cut.
Okay. All right. Johnny, do you have anything?
No, man. I think at this point in DeFi, it's going to be about who can build through the downturn. I feel like we are coming into a liquidity crunch. We all know what's happening. We can all see the signs in the economy, and whoever can put their head down, build, and kind of progress through this time, the ones that come out the other side are going to be the ones that dominate the next bull run. So, good luck, guys. I'm rooting for you.
Yeah,
thank you.
absolutely.
Appreciate that, Johnny.
So I don't really have a ton of other questions, I don't think. Oh, I did see. So I was going through your guys' announcements. This is just kind of a sidebar type thing. I saw that you guys were featured in that Crypto Academy magazine at the beginning of August. That was pretty interesting.
Yeah. It's part of our, we've been trying to educate the market outside of Discord, so to speak.
And I think that's really smart.
Yeah. If you go through our white paper, and we're not talking about it so much right now, but it is in the back of my mind. It's something that and we have ideas that we're working on behind the scenes, but it's just too much to talk about at some point. But we're working through these ones, like, you can think of them like a side or project, is how to get the mainstream to be more involved, how to not just be a Discord project or a Discord focus where people are just jumping. The same people are jumping from project to project to project, where you're not having the tide rise. We want to figure out ways, and this is the way we're all going to be more successful, all going to be more wealthy, we're all going to grow, is how to grow the pie, not to just keep jumping from project to project. So that's a big goal for us.
Sure, absolutely. And just like in any type of industry, like if you provide a simple service that people need and will use, people will come to you. I mean, yeah.
And this is the good thing about being publicly doxxed. I'm itching to do that. I'm going to be speaking at more events, going in person, presenting to people who are considering crypto, want to learn about it. I mean, this is the opportunity that I'm going to be doing all day long. That's going to be my sole job, is to grow that economy of both builders as well as investors. And the thing is, when you talk about builders, they're going to have their own investors that are going to come along. So it's just like continuously grow that market. And we want Collectiverse to be their first entry into this space.
Absolutely. So how long before the token launches?
Verse. So there's a couple of tokens. So the NFTs we're planning to release here,
right,
within a week to 2 weeks is coming up now, where we're looking to go live on those. Verse, the Verse token is going to be the last part, and the only reason we would hold back on releasing that is to we want to ensure that we've implemented enough of showing our ecosystem working, and not let people see what Collectiverse is, right? That's right now. This is the problem with any new project. People still trying to understand what Collectiverse is. We're something new. So once people can start investing in the space, see the projects that are in the space, start seeing what we are and what we have, then we are going to start releasing that token. That's why one of the reasons we didn't want to be first out with a Verse token, because we didn't want it to be like so many other tokens where people are just trading it and not understanding what our ecosystem is. So we wanted to educate. So first the NFTs, then we're going to be releasing Rocket, which is the platform that's needed for the ecosystem, and then we'll release Verse. And a lot of it's just going to depend on the market and how quickly we can get some of these things going. But look, we understand that people love their tokens and they want to have that, and we know that's an important piece. So we're not going to slow that down. We just want to make sure it's in the best interest for our community and for the ecosystem.
Yeah, sure. The one last question that I did have was I saw another announcement that you guys had or made recently about some grant funding, and is that in process and it's expected to drop at some point in the near future, or is that just kind of possibility?
We have had some very positive conversations. I would say we would have probably had a grant sooner if it wasn't for the market. You'd be surprised how correlated the grants are with the market. A lot of times, those grants are tied to their tokens, and the tokens are down. They're like, oh, that's less money in our grant pool. So, and that's fine. So, you wouldn't be surprised if you see us having a grant soon. I don't think wouldn't be as large as I would have expected day one, but we will be having. Look, when you look at what Collectiverse is building, if you're a protocol and you could have a project that's looking to help make an ecosystem safer and stronger and better, and it's doing it successfully in another protocol, wouldn't you want them to be in your ecosystem? Would you not want to give some? I mean, that we're not just building a token and not like some DeFi engineering and saying, hey, we're a project. We're actually building real technology, and I think most projects will want to be part of what Collectiverse is building. I've even seen, I read this was another thing. We read Metis. They have a whole Medium article on middleware and how much they believe in it. So I feel very confident. A lot of the VCs are investing in layer ones. A lot of focus is still in layer ones. That's where they made their money, and that's how they usually work. They'll over invest in a certain sector. Where I'm looking at is they'll realize very quickly the next big opportunity is in middleware. And for those who get in now and say this is a different way of approaching it, and if it works, and as you've said a few times, it can be massive. This is a huge opportunity, and in the middleware space. In DeFi and in networking, it's close to $100 billion market. So it's not a small market we're talking about.
How big did
There's
you
$100 billion in revenue per year. $100 billion per year revenue market is the market in TradFi and networking. So this is, and with DeFi, if you consider that we're sort of replicating all the stuff going on there, this could easily be that kind of market. So all the focus on layer ones, how much money they make and so forth. I think in a few years you're going to see the same thing in middleware, and we've actually called our platform layer 3 just to make it very clear. Like, people think that layer 3 are the applications of the dApps. We disagree. We believe layer 3 will be middleware, and then above them will be the dApps, just like traditional finance, just like networking. Sure. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I think eventually you're going to start seeing, mortgages and all of that type of paperwork and documents. They're all going to be through the blockchain, or at least I hope they are. Mm-hmm. I mean, because to have in this day and age to have a 30-day turnaround time for, the underwriters to review everything, it doesn't take that long. I mean, to me, it's crazy that we're still doing it that way.
Yeah, there's this part. The problem is the legality part of it, and how. I mean, we're seeing states like Wyoming start to show how it can be done. And I think we're going to see a lot more innovation on the regulation side too. I agree with you. Things are going to change very quickly, and it's one of these things where it seems to take forever, but then when it starts to happen, it'll happen quickly.
Right. Yeah. I completely agree. So, we're approaching about an hour right now. I don't have any other questions. Johnny, do you have anything?
No, it's been great to talk to you, and good luck in the future. I think you've done a
Thank
good
you.
job of explaining what you're trying to do, and we'll see how it works.
Apollo, do you have anything else
Yeah.
that you want to leave the community with?
Well, I would say is if you're looking for something different to invest in, and if you have some funds that you're looking where to invest, typically in a bear market, if you can buy the tokens, and again, this is what the NFTs are effectively a token purchase, in terms of the early stage projects, they usually turn out to be the best investments. And the VCs I actually even wrote added to our white paper an excerpt from one of the big hedge funds that mentioned it. That's where the opportunity is. And so we'd love to have you consider Collectiverse. We are risky investments, as all early projects are, but we would love to have you be part of our community and to be part of this if you're looking for something like that. Obviously, we understand the markets have been tough on some people, and don't invest what you can invest, but we believe what we're building is going to be very exciting for folks. And we look forward to speaking with you and the Cryptonaires team again and giving you an update on where we are. But this has been, we have been made a lot of progress, and we have a lot more to do coming up very soon. So we're excited about that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Looking forward to seeing what you guys put out here in the next couple months and beginning of Q1 of next year and so on. And really looking forward to the metaverse. So
awesome.
Yeah, let's do another AMA in a couple months or whatever, and just kind of update and go from there. So
that sounds great. Thanks, Scott, Johnny. Appreciate the time.
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate it. And just as always, guys, nothing here talked tonight was financial advice. So just please do your own research. Everyone have a good night.